All right, welcome back, everybody. In May this year, the Burundian elections were postponed due to a failed coup attempt. Violence spread across the country, which made it unsafe to continue with the elections. Now, on the 26th of this month, there are scheduled parliamentary elections and the presidential elections on the 15th of July. So the question is, will this poll be free of violence and be successful or not? Well, to analyse the upcoming elections in that country, we are joined in studio by Dr. Victor Shale, the Principal Consultant at Shale Elections and Governance Consulting. It's good to have you. Thank you very much for being our guest here on the programme.
Good morning, Leon. Thanks for having me.
What is your take on the upcoming Burundi parliamentary elections?
Well, it's one of those things that, it's never ending story. But one that can be better summed up as a fallacy of electoralism, in that there seems to be a perception that elections are a panacea for African problems, and that has over and over proven us to be wrong.
Yeah. Do you think that Burundi can conduct these elections without any violence?
Actually, I doubt if there will be, free and fair elections in Burundi, because they are already being held against the background of, open violence meted out against opposition parties by President Nkurunziza's militia and even the security forces. So you are conducting elections in a country where the pre-election environment is simply not conducive for holding of credible elections.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine that we could learn a lot about democracy and Africa in this failed coup attempt. What have you sort of analysed and read into all of this?
This coup story is very interesting, because talking to some of my contacts in Bujumbura, you actually find that there's a likelihood that it was actually a stage-managed coup to sort of invite sympathies for the president, who is clearly losing confidence of the majority of the people. But I think what is important for me is, why are our African leaders penchant on staying on to power even when it is clear that they no longer serve the interests of the people? I mean, what you have in Burundi is a question of the constitutional correctness and the political correctness of the whole situation, because the Constitutional Court, and we want to respect the judiciary in this regard, they are saying, yes, he can contest, but politically, it is not right. People have already died in Burundi. Over close to 100,000 people are already, refugees in neighboring countries. Why would a man of integrity want to stay on under such circumstances? And we see this all over the continent, where leaders refuse to leave, want to change constitutions so that they can, extend their mandate.
Yeah, you asked that question. I'm going to ask you the same question. Why? What is it the addiction to power, or is it perhaps the threat that when they leave power, they have to face the consequences of what they've done while in power?
There's two things there. The first one is that, staying in office, in political office, is really the easiest, avenue to wealth accumulation. So these people are so, used to having everything around them that it becomes very difficult for them to leave. But secondly, and unfortunately, most of our leaders, once they are in power, they actually erode any fiber of, constitutional democracy in their countries. And once they, start committing, human rights violations and related, things, it becomes difficult for them to then leave. And the reason being, they know once they leave office, they are going to have to answer. Yeah. This is why they would rather die in office.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's now go back to Burundi. And I suppose the question to ask now is, we see these elections coming up. I mean, it's happening this week on Thursday. In fact, is that, if I got my days
29 right? and 15 July for presidential.
So it is coming up this month and July.
Yes.
Can we expect the ruling party to actually accept the results if the opposition actually wins the majority votes in these parliamentary elections?
Well, I doubt, because the whole, electoral process there, can simply be described as a farce. I mean, there's no way opposition would win under the circumstances.
Yeah.
There's no media, private media. So, in terms of voter education, the information to the voters is almost non-existent. The security forces have been mobilized also to basically deal with any dissenting voices. So, I can safely say that in this election, President Nkurunziza will be contesting against himself.
Wow. So basically be going into a non-election is what we're saying.
It is.
Pretending there's an election coming up, but
it is
whichever way it goes,
and
he will remain president.
really running in the face of the African Union efforts to try and stabilize the continent.
Yeah.
They had a meeting here in our city last week, but unfortunately they don't seem to be fast enough to curb some of these tendencies by the leaders in the continent.
You talk, and I mean you speak from an educated perspective in terms of what can happen. Now we look back to what was happening here in South Africa. We had the AU summit taking place, all African heads of states here, all role players trying to get Africa into this future that we dream of, which is free, it's fair, it's better for their people. But I mean, the reality is that what we're looking at now is that these elections that are coming up are not going to be free, they're not going to be fair, and there's no guarantee that there's not going to be a lot of lives left. What can the AU do about this, or are they going to do anything?
It's a catch-22 for the African Union. I sometimes feel sorry for them because they could say we're staying away from these elections and therefore they won't have any, credibility. But you also cannot leave Burundians on their own at the time of need. So you have to go there, and by going there, you are almost like giving credence to the, faulty, electoral process. So they have to go in there, observe, and hope that they can deter any, committing of, violence against ordinary citizens. So they have to go in there, they have to monitor the situation closely, and then see how they can assist the country post the polling day in terms of reforms and ensuring that constitutionalism returns to Burundi.
Yeah, let's leave it there for today. Thank you for talking to us. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
We'll continue to monitor these elections very, very closely here at the SABC, and perhaps you can come and visit us again once all is said and done. That was Dr. Victor Shale from, is it Shale Stone or Shale Stone? Shale Stone. Thank you very much. Shale Stone Elections and Governance Consultants, talking to us about the upcoming Burundi elections. All right, turning our attention